With the onset of climate change in the 21st century, humanity has realized that the excessive consumption of fossil fuels leads to global and irreversible consequences. And we have desperately begun to look for a clean alternative in the form of solar, wind, and ocean energy. But so far, these sources of green energy do not give the desired result. Wind and sun are fickle and difficult to predict. But there is another clean source of energy, an underestimated and stable one that can outperform the sun and wind. And in this video, we will tell about it. At the beginning of the 20th century, Iceland was one of the poorest countries in Europe. Coal, peat, and later oil were used to generate electricity, heating, and hot water. Unknown to them, the country literally sat on free energy, geothermal sources. And only the fuel crises of the 1970s forced them to reconsider their energy strategy. Today, Iceland gets 100% of its electricity from renewable sources. Geothermal fields produce 20% of all electricity and provides all Icelanders with hot water and heating. During this time, the country has saved billions of dollars and the Icelanders have become one of the richest people in Europe. Do not forget that Iceland is lucky. It is located directly on the Atlantic tectonic fault. In order to access hot water or steam that can turn a turbine, you often just need to stick a pipe into the ground. But not everyone is as lucky as Iceland. How does a classic geothermal power plant work? As a source of energy, it uses a steam-water mixture of high temperatures from underground geothermal reservoirs, which is taken from wells. The mixture is then separated on special separators into gas and steam. The power of the steam is used to turn the tables of a turbine that produces electricity, and the water returns to the ground either in the same well or in others. Binary cycle geothermal power plants are also common. They use the so-called organic Rankine cycle. In them, the steam-water mixture from geothermal reservoirs does not enter the turbine. It passes through a heat exchanger where it heats the working fluid, most often isopentane. The working fluid boils faster and turns into a gas which rotates the turbine blades, producing electricity. Such power plants have the advantage of being used effectively in low-enthalpy geothermal environments. In simple words, where the water and steam are not as hot and powerful as in Iceland. That is, this technology has wider geography of use. Why don't we drill a well anywhere and use geothermal energy, you ask? First of all, geothermal power plants cannot simply be placed anywhere on the planet, because geothermal reservoirs are not always close to the surface. To get to them, they need to drill wells kilometers deep. However, drilling technologies are developing, and the process is becoming more efficient and cheaper. But here comes the second issue. You also need to guess where to plug the pipe, because there are many unsuccessful projects in the world when the drilled wells turn out to be dry. There is a third issue as well. To pump water back into the ground, you need to use powerful pumps, which can take more than half of the electricity received. That is a problem, particularly for binary cycle power plants in low-enthalpy environments. And now what? Will geothermal energy be used only by lucky states like Iceland? The Ever startup says no, and they have a working solution. The Canadian company Ever Technologies Inc. was founded in 2017 with the aim of manufacturing a scalable underground power plant. The story goes that Business Development Director Paul Cairns asked CEO John Redfern why geothermal power plants hadn't become common. In response, he heard that the parasitic load of pumps eats up more than half of all generated energy, which often makes them inefficient. And then there was that very case when the lack of a scientific and technical background helped to come up with a revolutionary solution. Cairns offered, "Why don't we just drill down 2 wells and connect them horizontally below ground, and we'll connect them on the surface and make this big loop? Wouldn't that flow better?" According to Redfern, he thought, and I thought it was the dumbest idea I'd ever heard in my life. But the company's chief technical officer, engineer Matt Taves, confirmed this will not only eliminate the parasitic load of the pump, it will also force the liquid to constantly move inside the closed system due to the thermosiphon effect. What is the essence of the effect? The cold liquid is denser than the hot liquid. Therefore, it sinks down faster and pushes the hot liquid to the surface. These are the basics of thermodynamics. And although even the founders of the company claim that, to many, it sounded like a perpetual motion machine, this is not the case. The system needs an external power source, and this is the thermal energy of Earth rocks. Because if you drill a deep well anywhere on the planet, the temperature of the rocks around will rise by 30 degrees Celsius with every kilometer. In some volcanic hotspots, temperature gradients reach 60 degrees Celsius or more per kilometer. That is, at a depth of 3 to 5 kilometers, which is normal for the oil and gas industry, the rock temperature can reach hundreds of degrees Celsius. How does it work in its entirety? The fundamental difference of the ever loop system is its closed loop. It consists of 2 vertical wells several kilometers deep, which are interconnected by a horizontal well. For more efficient operation of the system, a horizontal well has several branching channels, which at the end again converge into one. So you can use more liquid and increase the power of the installation. Pipelines are laid in the wells. A proprietary working fluid isolated from the environment circulates in the system. It is heated by the high temperature of the surrounding rocks. Due to the thermosiphon effect, the hot liquid rises, emerges from the ground, and enters the heat exchanger. It transfers heat to another liquid which, when heated, turns into a gas which rotates a turbine that generates electricity. The fluid that turns the turbine is then condensed back to a liquid state by an air cooler and re-enters the heat exchanger to be heated by the ever loop. The speed of the heat exchanging cycle is controlled by a pressure valve, making power generation completely controllable and predictable. Most importantly, it actually works on a functional Everlight prototype. Its construction began on August 2, 2019, when 2 precision drilling rigs began operation in the Canadian province of Alberta. On September 16th, meeting the time and budget, the drilling of 2 almost vertical wells with a depth of about 2.5 kilometers and a multi-channel well connecting them with a length of about 2 kilometers was completed. On December 3, 2019, the facility was put into operation, and a day later it was transferred to the thermosiphon mode. Since then, the process and temperature have remained stable and consistent. For the past 2 years, the company has been looking for opportunities to scale up and build other facilities based on proven technology. Remarkably, the startup focused on failed geothermal wells in its search for locations to build new ever loops. On the one hand, it is symbolic that these projects will receive a second life. On the other hand, this will allow for achieving cost reduction, which is very important for a startup at first. The closest project to realization is in Geretsried, Germany, where 2 wells from a failed geothermal project will be used to build the Everloop. Works on drilling of the ultra-deep well were also announced within the Everdeep project in the U.S. Northwest to prove the system viability in deep drilling and ultra-high temperature conditions. Today, geothermal energy, for various reasons, occupies a small share of all green energy, although it could potentially be a major element in the world's transition to a carbon-free era. It is available 24/7, can be adjusted, and is predictable. Geothermal power plants do not require large spaces and do not produce any noise. They also create more jobs than solar panels and wind turbines. Moreover, their life cycle is many times longer and reaches 100 years. But because of its disadvantages, its distribution has not spread widely. Therefore, we hope that the development of the Ever startup will help change this, as well as help the development of the use of geothermal energy all around the world.